Hey, what's up, everybody? I'm Justin Young. He is Garrett Tucker. Welcome to the Fast Break right here on hoopscene.com, hoopscene on X, and hoopscene on YouTube. All the places we're live streaming today as we get ready for the postseason in Garrett's great state of Alabama. Garrett, what's up, man? How we doing?
Can't complain. Like you said, playoff basketball's here. It's win or go home time. So playoffs started. Technical area tournament started technically over the weekend. So we got all this week. We're going to see who can bust a bracket or two, and also who can go on and win a state championship. So it's not a better time of year for sure. And next week, I know is going to be really good with regional play. So it's an exciting time with Alabama basketball.
I love it. You know, I watched a ton of film last year. I watched a lot of live stuff in your great state of Alabama. I thought the playoffs were awesome. I think your state does it so well, like the way they cover it, the way the live streams are, the stats, the media. I think the state of Alabama, I think, is really, honestly, I watch a lot of basketball across the country. Alabama does it as good as anybody there is in the nation. And it's so much fun. The games are always super competitive and a ton of fun to watch. So I knew it was time to get on the podcast here and go through it, and decided to live stream it today. And hopefully you're watching it. Hopefully people are tuning in and getting a chance to see what's going on. Because I feel like every year too, Garrett, the playoffs is really where somebody kind of births their story and really kind of burst onto the scene, and really becomes not just a prospect within the state, but really maybe regionally, even to a national level. So I feel like Alabama needs a big spotlight on it, and we're going to do that today here in the postseason view going on. So I actually can't believe it's already February, because I feel like we were just having podcasts like yesterday about guys that were killing the postseason in Alabama last year. So it just kind of blows my mind that this is where we are. So we'll set the table. So give like, if somebody's not from Alabama that's watching this, explain just briefly like how the playoffs work in Alabama, because every state's different with the postseason.
Yeah, so each classification, we've got 7 classifications. There are areas throughout the state. Most of those are 4-team areas. You got a couple of 3 and 5. So, but essentially, the top 2 teams from each area tournament advances to sub-region play. The winner of the area tournament hosts. The second place has to travel. So that's how it is across the board, except for 7A. If you're first and second area, you move on to the regional play. And then but yeah, after sub-region, those winners go on to regional play at the 4 sites, Northeast, Northwest, South, and Central. And from there, the top teams that emerge from those regionals go to the Final Four for the Final Four. So it is it's everything. It all culminates the road to Birmingham, kind of like you said. They do it very well.
They do such a great job. I know our hoop scene history has a lot of great chapters there at the Final Four in Birmingham for a lot of different reasons, which maybe we'll get into later in the show. I don't know, but I always think about one of my most favorite memories we have at hoop scene at the Alabama Final Four, and games we didn't even get to watch. So that might be a story for the end of the podcast. We already got a comment, Cuzzy, getting on here saying Austin and Set take 7A in state. So maybe we'll get into that conversation with you here a little bit down the road. But I guess let's start at the very top. Okay. I know we can kind of go through each of the classifications. We can kind of systematically, go down the list. But for you, of all the teams in your state, is there a team that's like the one that has the biggest bullseye, the most likely to win state? Is there a favorite going into the postseason here?
So I'll throw a 2 at you. Well, maybe 3, I guess. First off, I'm going to Covenant Christian in 1A. Back-to-back state champions are going for the 3-peat this year. They're really talented, especially for a 1A squad. I would be shocked if they fall this year. Just how they've returned everybody for the previous 2 years. So I think they're going to be really good. They've got to be heavily favored in 1A. Then you go to 5A. Valley ran the table last year, went undefeated, won 5A state title. They lost one early this year, but they're still they've only lost 1 game. I don't know what the exact record is. So I think that's another one that they got to be one to watch. 5A is going to be competitive with Fairfield, Madison Academy, several other teams. So definitely those 2 have the Bulls out on their back, and I'll throw Huntsville in the mix as well. Huntsville's played a tough schedule. They've played Hoover, they've played Central Phoenix City. You can go on down the line. And when it comes to Birmingham, the experts kind of predict that it'll be Huntsville, Hoover, Central Phoenix City, and then maybe throw in somebody down south of Baker, Mary G. Montgomery. But Huntsville definitely they have a target on their back. It's their year, so it's going to be fun to see how it plays out for those three teams especially.
Yeah. It's interesting too, as states, and I don't know how I feel about this. So I feel like it wasn't that long ago where we just had like 4 state champions. Now we're seeing states that have 6, 7, 8 champions in the state, which sometimes maybe waters down the postseason a little bit. But I don't know. I mean, I still give somebody a chance to go out there and compete. But like a team like Valley, right? Like 1 loss in 2 years. I don't care what level you're in, to have that type of culture, that type of winning mentality. It's hard to beat. So it'll be interesting.
It says a lot about the program.
For sure. Yeah, for sure. I guess for you, like, which classification, as we kind of look at this from a wide angle lens, which classification do you think will be the most competitive here in the coming weeks in Alabama?
If you go to 7A, kind of like I just rattled off, Huntsville, Hoover, Auburn, or Central Phoenix City, Baker, Mary G. Montgomery, Fairhope. That's very wide. That's going to be a fun 7A. It's tons of talent, but I feel like each year, like 6A is just wide open. It's a gauntlet. For example, like last year, Buckhorn en route to their state championship, they knocked off an undefeated Pinson Valley in regional play. And shoot, even in their regionals this year, I mean, it's going to be a Pinson Valley, a Buckhorn, a Coleman, Clay Chalkville. It's 6A could go. There's a million different ways it could go. I think the teams that were there last year, you got Mountain Brook, Paul Bryant from Tuscaloosa, Buckhorn, throw in McGill Tulin from down south. I mean, 6A is just a gauntlet to go through. So you could put, a different variation of the Final Four teams, and there's no telling it. It probably wouldn't be right. That's just kind of how it is. It's so up in the air. So I'm going to say that's going to be very competitive, and there's no telling, who will emerge from that.
So is 6A, in your opinion, more competitive than 7A as far as like more of a uncertainty as to who will be the champion?
Yeah, I'm not going to say they're more talented, but it's more, I guess, more parity. Maybe I don't know if that's the right word. It's just, it can go so many different ways.
I think it's like this year's NCAA tournament, right? Like I couldn't like I had a friend of mine, my neighbor. We saw each other. We were out cooking, on the grill, and it's like, all right, man, you're my college basketball expert. Who do I need to pick for the Final Four? I'm like, bro, I have no idea. Like, honestly, I have no idea. Every team in the top 10 loses every single week, and I feel like that parity, to your point, is continues on at the high school level. And maybe it would be the case if we didn't have so many classifications, but nevertheless, it does make for a fun postseason, that's for sure. All right, let me ask you this. So, and this may be a hard one to answer, but like, is there like a most valuable player thus far within the state of Alabama, like a guy that's like, if you got to pick like a Mr. Alabama basketball, or like the very best guy in the state, who's kind of setting the bar individually speaking?
I think I'm going to have to go back to Huntsville. They've been the clear-cut best team throughout the year, and their best player's been Caleb Harrison from day one. He's been on the upward trajectory since the spring. Been really, really good. If I had a Mr. Basketball vote, he would be getting my vote. To be honest with you, he's just been unreal. He's on a mission. So I think that's who I would go with.
You've been on that guy from day one, by the way, like day one. That's been your guy that you're like, that guy's the guy.
Yes. And I will say, too, we had somebody mention Austin. I forgot to mention them with 7A. They're very much in the picture as well. Jordan Johnson, he's been another guy that's played really well, especially here down the stretch. If Austin's going to make it to the Final Four in Birmingham, I think Jordan's going to have a lot to say about that. So I think he'll definitely be up there on all state teams for sure. But as far as the MVP, I definitely have to go with Caleb, though. He's been impressive this year.
Where do you feel like he's gotten better at this season?
Even going back to the spring, he's just gotten a lot tougher. He always had, was skilled around the basket, could step out and shoot it. Now I think he's put some weight on, some strength, and he's just really physically dominated people where in the past he couldn't do that physically. So I would say that aspect, and just he's figured out that he's the guy.
Yeah.
And whenever that light bulb comes on, there's a lot of people in trouble, and that's what they've done all year through him, played through him, and he's been a consistent double double guy.
Yeah, he's one of those guys too. I can see him as a junior and senior in college really being a problem and being a guy that's on a 20+ win, type of team, and really being a March Madness guy too. That people are like, oh, who's this guy? And feel like that's how his career is kind of moving in that direction, right? Let me kind of jump in here in the middle as we're kind of going through our stuff. I want to throw some stuff out there. I mean, it's already February, which is really odd to me, which means we're in travel basketball like basically next month. I want to throw out a couple dates out there as we're kind of talking about the postseason. People are already starting to think about the travel season. Listen, we're back at the Finley Center for the Bama Jam. We're going to do it in March 29th through the 31st. So we're going to do it a little earlier than we've done in the past, but to the very end of March there in Hoover. We're going to be there. I think it's become, I think, one of my 3 most favorite events on our calendar year in and year out. It's the best venue. I love that venue. I've talked about it since we've been going there. I feel like it's one of the few places too that from top to bottom, it's super competitive. Guys emerge out of that year in and year out. We're going to sell that out. We may actually get some offsite venues for that because the interest has already been sky high. So put that on your calendar, March 29th or the 31st. Put that in Sharpie, circle that up. I want to throw out a couple things too as I'm kind of looking at my calendar. The same weekend, we're actually going to be in Knoxville, Tennessee. So if you're looking for maybe another option to try something else out, we want you to go to Alabama or to the Bama Jam if you're from Alabama. But if you want to go up to Knoxville, we got something going on up there as well at the Knoxville Convention Center for the Tennessee Tip-Off, the TNT. That's going to be an event that we just started this year that we're going to be running here down the road. On the girls' side, if you're watching this, we've also got you covered there in Gunthorsville and April 12th to the 14th for the Battle of the Lake. But also on the boys' side, we're going to be in Memphis for the Tennessee Jam, which is a pretty quick little drive. How far is it from Birmingham, Knoxville to get to Memphis?
3 hours or so. Not too bad.
It's a normal day in traffic in Atlanta, right? So April 12th to the 14th, we'll be at the Memphis Sports and Events Center. Excited about that. And then wrapping things up, we're going to be at the Alabama Cup back at Supreme Courts May 3rd through the 5th. So I know I threw a number of dates out there to you, but it's already time to start thinking about the travel season. So make sure you go to hoopscene.com/events and go find the events that's right for you. We got boys, we got girls, we got elite level teams, we got hyper local, middle school, high school, everything in between. So a lot of options for you there as we're kind of talking about the postseason. All right, let's get back to the postseason there in Alabama. I want to at least get that in there, Garrett, to kind of throw that out. Give me a team or 2 or 3 or 7 that could really mess up a postseason bracket in Alabama.
I'm going to go with Northridge from Tuscaloosa.
Okay.
First-year coach, Barry Sanderson, close friends with both of us, familiar with him. Wow. They've got it rolling this year. They are 22-4, so may have played a game this week. So they're really talented. They're going to compete with Paul Bryant to come out of that region and everything. So that's somebody to watch. I'll also throw in McAdory, Hueytown. Okay. Both of those teams play in the same area. They're going to be competitive. And then also Helena. Helena's quietly, they've competed, throughout the year. They've got a good mixture of size, guys that can score the ball. Joshua Williams, who we've seen on our stage, he's done really well. They've also got a ton of length and everything. So those handful of teams right there, like I said, 6A, though all of those teams, they could pull some upsets. You could also throw Shades Valley in there, Clay Chalkville. There's just, and there's so many teams right there that, could really throw a wrench into what people think it actually is going to look like.
Sure.
So, but if I had to choose one, I would definitely say Northridge.
Okay. Shout out Barry Sanderson. Good to hear that name. I haven't heard Barry's name in a while, so that's cool to hear that. All right. I don't have this on our notes, but I'm going to throw it out there to you anyways, because maybe able to hit this, at least get a double out of it. Last year was Caleb Holt, like a stud young guy that really seemed to step up. And I go back still. I have a lot of film saved in my computer. I'll go back and watch what he did in the postseason. I was like, holy crap. I can't believe he was that young and that good in the postseason. Is there a guy this year that's like an underclassman, even a sophomore, freshman maybe, that could be a player that for a guy like me that I need to make sure I tap into? I know I'm throwing you kind of a curveball here.
Um, I'm gonna go with Clyde Walters from Pinson Valley. I think
Okay.
he's really good. That's a name that we both know.
Yeah.
Um, Pinson Valley, they've played a high level competition all year, so
Sure.
their record doesn't really show how good they are. But if they're going to make it to Birmingham, it's going to be a lot of Clyde, and I'm really high on him. I think he's going to be good. I'll also throw in so in 7A Area 5, you've got Hoover, and then Vestavia. Assuming Hoover beats Tuscaloosa County, but you've got Vestavia and Thompson. So Hoover, Vestavia, Thompson, those are 3 top 10 teams. Well, the way our playoffs are, only one of those, or only 2 of those are going to advance. One of Vestavia and Thompson.
Okay.
It's really a shame. But Vestavia's got Ben Evans, who's going to be a highly recruited. He's a D2, may slip in with some low majors. Adam Barksdale is a junior,
Yeah.
6'5", 6'6", can really shoot it. He's got a chance. And then you look into the Thompson side. They've got all their young kids that are mostly sophomores. Colvin Landrew, Jay Green. Jay has really been the guy that makes that team go. I've been very impressed watching him this past season. So I think Jay could really take off and impress some people here down the stretch, especially if they beat Vestavia. And they've already beat Hoover, so they've shown that they can do that. So it'll be interesting to see how that plays out.
Selfishly, I'm really excited about the Alabama playoffs because I've got a pretty nice little setup now where I've got 4 screens. I'm ready for March Madness, but I need something to like really test it out. So maybe the Alabama State playoffs is really where I test it out to get 4 games going on at the same time.
I will say you were all over the Caden Reichert show last year for Westminster. You were very high on him, and he hasn't looked back. He's been really good. So I'm excited to see who your next one is.
I really believe that. Like as long as I've been doing this in my career, the Alabama State playoffs really reveals a new layer for a lot of players, and it has not failed me yet. Where there's a guy that's out there that is good, that we know is good, but has a chance to really level up and be great. And I'm excited to kind of see these games play out to see who that could be. All right, we could go on and on and on. I wanted to keep this kind of short, around 20 minutes or so, but let me just kind of leave this with you, Garrett. As we're kind of wrapping up, as we've wrapped up the regular season, and again, going into the postseason, is there a lesson or like a theme that you kind of learned or gathered about the state of Alabama this year in high school hoops?
Well, I'll kind of go with just kind of what you just said. We get profiled as a football state, and yeah, there is definitely football talent, but there's basketball too. Somebody like Caden emerged, and it's always, the next man up, the next opportunity. Yeah. I've seen a lot of that this year, throughout the year. So as we go down the stretch, I'm excited to see, hey, I love the upsets, the Cinderellas. So who's going to take that initiative and really take the bull by the horns and be that guy that emerges or that team that emerges? So I would say that because it's been the next guy up mentality throughout the year, no matter if it's just going to a single high school game or a tournament event, whatever. I would say it's been that consistently.
I love it. It does sound like too that we're just going to have a lot of. You got to go watch them. I mean, because again, you lose, you go home, you got to go watch them. You got to go make sure you get some eyes on them. I feel like there's a lot of unsigned seniors that are out there too, so it's a good place to go. A couple of resource notes here. Make sure you follow at Hoopsing AL on X. Make sure you follow Garrett. Garrett, what's your handle on Twitter X?
At G Tucker Hoops.
Yeah, G Tucker Hoops. And then also, what is the website that if you're a college coach, or if you're just a junkie, the Alabama High School State Association, that's really good. That has all the brackets and all the resources. Remind us of what that website is, if you know.
I know they've got a really good Twitter account that gets going. It's this time of year.
I can see it too. There's a lot of A's in it, and I don't want to screw it up.
Yeah, I want to say AHSAA Hoops or I'm not sure, to be honest.
We'll make sure we link it below. Make sure you can follow that there. But it is a great resource. I look at it all the time this time of year. Plus, I think they put the links for all the live streams on there as well. So
Correct.
Really resource to kind of tap into. If you watch the live stream, we appreciate you tapping in. We'll do this, I think, a couple more times here in the postseason when both Garrett and I are not wrestling our own kids around and trying to get them to bed or to eat their dinner or wake up and go to school or any of those things that fatherhood kind of throws our way these days. But definitely want to make sure we get out there. And if you see Garrett on the road, say what's up to him. Again, go to hoopsie.com/events and get your travel team locked in for our season. A lot of events going on in Alabama and Tennessee, some new options for your program to go out there and compete with us. Garrett, this was fun, man. I appreciate you jumping on here with me, and we'll do it again soon.
Sounds good. Always good to be on here.
Take care.